What happens when late-night comedy turns into late-night controversy? When charm turns into conflict? Tonight, we're diving deep into the moment Meghan Markle found herself in the crosshairs of one of television's most sharp-tongued hosts, Stephen Colbert, **. What started as a promotional appearance spiraled into an explosive clash that ended with Meghan being asked to leave the set. This isn't just celebrity gossip. This is the story of what happens when egos, expectations, and the unfiltered truth collide on live television. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, because this is not your average talk show meltdown. It had been making the rounds to promote her new children's book and mental health initiative. Meghan was reportedly calm and collected, hair perfect, makeup camera ready, notes in hand. She'd done this dance before, and Stephen, more focused, as the opening monologue wrapped. The crowd buzzed with anticipation. And now Stephen said, she's an actress. The audience applauded as Meghan walked out, smiling confidently. She waved, took her seat, and gave the host a gracious nod. The small talk began. Stephen asked about California weather, her kids, the usual warm-up. Meghan answered smoothly, with practiced ease. But then Stephen shifted gears. So, Meghan, he said, voice still playful, but tone noticeably different. You've said before that you never wanted to be in the spotlight. That privacy was a major reason you and Harry stepped back from royal duties. And yet, here you are, Netflix, Spotify interviews, books. Help me understand. Is this what privacy looks like now? She began, between controlling your narrative and being exploited. I want to share what matters on my terms. Stephen nodded, but didn't. Let it go, right? But your terms seem to involve a lot of camera crews, documentaries, personal revelations. Oprah, isn't that just a different kind of spotlight? Meghan's expression didn't waver, but there was a subtle shift. The first crack in composure. When you're silenced for so long, she said, taking back your story becomes powerful. Stephen leaned forward, silenced. You've done more interviews than most presidents. Who exactly was silencing you? Stephen, she replied. Sometimes it's not about words. It's about what happens behind the scenes, the systems, the control. Sure, Colbert said, but can't the same be said for any public institution? And isn't the royal family, by definition, a system you chose to enter? The crowd let out a low OOOOH, not hostile, just uncomfortable. Meghan glanced at the audience. Then back at Colbert. I fell in love with a person, she said quietly, not a system. Fair enough, Stephen replied, but falling in love with a prince comes with a crown-shaped fine print, doesn't it? Meghan didn't respond right away. And that silence? It was loud, Colbert continued. I'm not trying to ambush you, he said. Privacy, healing, and what you do, constant media engagement, multi-million-dollar deals, and repeated criticisms of an institution that can't really fight back. That's not true, Meghan said firmly. We walked away. But you didn't walk away quietly, Stephen countered. You walked away with Oprah, a Netflix series, and a memoir. That's not walking. That's marching with a megaphone. The audience was stunned. Even Meghan seemed caught off guard. She sat in silence for a moment, then said, You're being unfair. Am I? Stephen asked. Or am I just saying what people think? But are too polite to say to your face, Not a trial. Stephen paused, then said, I'm all for helping people. But if you're using your platform to talk about healing, maybe start by acknowledging the contradictions. That hit hard. Meghan visibly stiffened. You want contradictions? The audience murmured. Stephen held up his hands. Let's not confuse criticism with silencing. You're not being silenced, you're being challenged. That's what this show does. We ask tough questions. You ask tough questions of people who already have the world against them, Meghan snapped. Why not challenge the system? That's always had the power. I do, Colbert shot back, every night. But tonight, the questions are for you. And just like that, the interview had turned into an interrogation, her podcast. But the energy had shifted. Every answer felt defensive. Every moment, More strained. Asterisk finally, after another tense exchange about her public image. Meghan removed her microphone. Asterisk, I think we're done here, she said. Stephen raised an eyebrow. You're walking out? Asterisk, I came here in good faith, she replied. This wasn't what I agreed to. Asterisk, and what did you agree to? Stephen asked. A free pass. That did it. Meghan stood up. Asterisk. Maybe if more people like you used your platforms to uplift, instead of tear down, the world would be better. Asterisk, maybe if more people like you were honest about their motives. We wouldn't have to ask the tough questions, Stephen replied. Security didn't need to be called. Meghan walked off on her own, but not before turning around and saying, Asterisk, thanks for proving my point. Asterisk, the audience didn't know whether to clap. My experience, my perspective, could help modernize the monarchy, Meghan said. I had ideas about mental health initiatives, about youth, empowerment, about using that platform for real change. Too much. Change can be slow in traditional institutions, Stephen offered gently. Slow. Meghan's voice cracked with frustration. Stephen, they're still debating whether women should wear pants to certain events. They have rules about which tiara you can wear based on your blood status. I once got a memo about the proper angle. To hold a teacup, the proper angle. Meanwhile, people are homeless on the streets outside the palace gates. Stephen tried to steer the tone back, but surely there must have been some positive aspects to your time as a working royal. Asterisk positive, Meghan seemed to consider this. I suppose if you consider being treated like a zoo animal positive. Come look at the American actress who somehow trapped a prince. Watch her curtsy. Watch her fail. Asterisk, the audience didn't know whether to laugh, gasp, or stay silent. Meghan leaned forward. They didn't want me to thrive. They wanted me to survive. Quietly, obediently, invisibly. That some of the public pushback wasn't about race or control, but about how fast you tried to change a centuries-old institution. Meghan's eyes narrowed. Why does that argument always come up when it's a woman of color making changes? When white women enter institutions and make waves, they're... Asterisk, I think people were reacting to the strategy, Stephen said. The Talal interviews, the docuseries, the explosive allegations, without clear evidence. Meghan shook her head slowly. You sound just like them. Asterisk, I'm not them, Stephen replied. I'm asking you what they won't, you say. You want transparency? Let's have it. Asterisk, because we tried everything else. Meghan's voice rose. We had meetings, we wrote letters, we asked for help, and we were ignored. Or worse, gaslit, told we were imagining things. Asterisk, you're talking about racism within the royal household. Asterisk, I'm talking about systemic indifference, Meghan said. The kind that kills, that makes people feel hopeless. Asterisk, but there are people, even allies, who say the way you told your story hurt more than it helped, Stephen added. That it alienated the very audience you were trying to educate. Meghan exhaled sharply. I didn't come here to debate public perception. I came to talk about solutions. Asterisk, then, let's talk about the charity, Stephen said. Arkawell, what's it actually doing? Asterisk, we're funding community health centers. Supporting women's shelters, promoting media literacy, Meghan replied. We've already impacted over 100,000 lives. Asterisk, and yet, Stephen said, public interest is down. Your podcast deal collapsed. The animated series was cancelled. Your public approval is slipping. Why do you think that is? Asterisk, or Stephen said gently, maybe people are tired of hearing the same story. That stung. I've lived more in the last 5 years than most people live in a lifetime, Meghan replied. If you think I'm going to stop telling my story because it makes people uncomfortable, you're mistaken. Asterisk, I'm just saying. Stories can inspire, but they can also exhaust, Stephen said. And right now, even your fans are asking, what's next? Meghan's tone grew sharper. What's next is what I came here to talk about. But we're not talking about that, are we? Asterisk, because every attempt to talk about the present leads us right back to the past, Stephen said. And maybe that's the problem. There was a long pause. Then Meghan leaned in, her voice quieter but intense. Asterisk, do you know what it's like to sit at a royal event and feel invisible? To smile and wave while people whisper that you're a fraud, an opportunist, a mistake. Stephen didn't answer. I know what trauma looks like, Meghan continued. And I lived it, in the palace, in the media, in my own home. Asterisk, I'm not here to question your pain, Stephen said. I'm here to ask whether reliving it constantly is the way to heal. Asterisk, I'm healing by helping others, Meghan said, by creating spaces for unheard voices. Asterisk, Stephen nodded. But his face was skeptical. Asterisk, even if that healing sometimes comes across as self-promotion. That's your interpretation, Meghan replied. It's the interpretation of a lot of people, Stephen said, even allies. Asterisk, I don't need everyone to agree with me, Meghan said, but I need space to speak. You've had more space than most, Stephen said, and I've earned it, Meghan snapped, through trauma, through survival, through every lie printed about me. Another beat of silence. The tension was suffocating. Asterisk, finally, Stephen said, let's take a break, but Meghan shook her head. No, I think we're done. Asterisk, and with that, she removed her microphone. Again, asterisk, the producers were already moving. Staff were whispering urgently. Security hovered nearby, unsure if they'd be needed. Asterisk, Stephen sat still, watching Meghan rise from her chair. Asterisk, thank you for coming, he said. Meghan looked back over her shoulder. Thank you for proving why I had to leave in the first place. Then she walked off stage. The camera panned to Stephen, still sitting, still silent. The music cue never came. The show cut to black. Asterisk, the band struck up the transition music as the show cut to commercial. But the audience remained frozen, in shock at what they had just witnessed. Asterisk, in all his years of late-night television, Stephen Colbert had never ended an interview quite like that. Asterisk, as the stage lights dimmed and the commercial break began, Stephen removed his own microphone and walked off stage, leaving everyone to process what had just happened. Asterisk. The Duchess had finally met someone who wouldn't play along with her narrative, and the result had been explosive. Asterisk producers scrambled behind the scenes. Phones buzzed, PR teams were activated within seconds. Meghan's publicist was reportedly already on the phone with network executives demanding that the footage not air. But it was too late. The cameras had captured everything. By morning, clips from the interview were everywhere. Hashtag Colbert confronts Meghan and hashtag WalkoutDuchess were trending worldwide. Asterisk, the reaction, divisive, intense, and impossible to ignore. Asterisk, some praised Colbert for doing what no one else would, asking tough, pointed questions that cut through the carefully curated image Meghan had built since stepping back from royal life. Asterisk, others accused him of ambushing a woman who came in good faith, of using his platform to humiliate rather than illuminate. Asterisk, the media firestorm was immediate. Asterisk, tabloids declared it the royal meltdown live on CBS. Major outlets like CNN and BBC ran stories about the ethics of confrontational interviewing in a post-opera world. Asterisk, Hollywood insiders were reportedly shaken. Meghan's upcoming appearances were suddenly on pause. Sponsors and collaborators were reassessing. Asterisk, even Colbert's own team wasn't immune. Some staffers felt he had gone too far, crossing the line between satire and cruelty. Asterisk, but Stephen, he stood by every word. Asterisk, in a statement the next day, he said, "My job is to ask questions, even the uncomfortable ones. If guests come on this show expecting a monologue instead of a dialogue, they're in the wrong chair." That line alone set social media on fire. Meanwhile, Meghan's camp issued a much more polished response. The Duchess of Sussex remains committed to creating space for compassion and understanding. Last night's experience only further underscores the importance of respectful discourse, but the damage was done. Major sponsors of Archewell Meghan and Harry's foundation reportedly began pulling back. Netflix executives were concerned about the fallout from their content deal. Rumors swirled that Spotify was second-guessing any new audio projects, and yet the public couldn't look away. Clips of Meghan removing her microphone. Her final line, "Thanks for proving my point." Colbert's stone-faced reaction, the silent crowd. It all became instant internet history. On Reddit, debates raged on TikTok. Reaction videos flooded For You pages. Asterisk on YouTube. Every media analyst had an opinion. Asterisk, was Meghan finally being held accountable? Asterisk, or was this a primetime character assassination masquerading as journalism? As days passed, the dust began to settle. Colbert addressed the moment once more on his next episode. Asterisk. "Look," he said, "I'm a comedian. I ask questions with a smile, but the questions are real. You don't get to own the narrative just because you've been hurt. Pain deserves empathy, but so does truth." The audience gave polite applause, but the energy was different. Something had changed. Asterisk. Meghan, on the other hand, went quiet. No new statements, no follow-ups, no posts. For a woman known for controlling the narrative, this silence spoke. Volumes. Sources close to the Sussex camp claimed she felt blindsided by how the interview had turned into a referendum on her character, that she felt betrayed, that she was rethinking public appearances altogether. Asterisk. But privately, rumors swirled that Meghan had snapped at her own team after the taping. That Harry was deeply upset by how it played out. That Arcueil staff were in panic mode, trying to manage the backlash. Asterisk. In the following weeks, the Meghan and Harry brand saw a noticeable shift. Asterisk. Engagement on their social media platforms dropped. Media bookings slowed. Public sentiment, already mixed, seemed to tilt further toward skepticism. Asterisk. For Stephen Colbert. It was a gamble, but one that paid off. Asterisk. Ratings for that episode were the highest in over a year. The clip of Meghan's walkout became the most viewed segment on the network's YouTube channel. Viewers either loved or hated what happened, but nobody could ignore it. Asterisk. And in the cutthroat world of late-night television, that's what mattered. Months later, the dust still hadn't fully settled. Some called it a turning point. The moment the public finally demanded consistency between message and behavior, asterisk, others saw it as a cautionary tale about the price of vulnerability in a world that increasingly values spectacle over sincerity. Asterisk. Either way, one thing was clear. Asterisk. Meghan Markle walking off the set of The Late Show wasn't just a viral moment. Asterisk. It was a cultural flashpoint. Asterisk. A symbol of how fast public opinion can shift and how fragile carefully curated images can be in the face of a single, unfiltered conversation. Asterisk. What do you think? Asterisk. Was Stephen Colbert doing his job as an interviewer? Or did he cross a line into personal attack? Asterisk. Was Meghan right to defend herself? Or did she walk away when the questions got tough? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories where celebrity meets controversy and the masks come off on live television. Asterisk.